Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. I trust that you had a beautiful weekend, an enjoyable weekend as well. Today is Monday, the 11th of April, 2016. I want to thank you for allowing us into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or you may be in the outdoors as well. For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I'm your host, Orit Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. Our phone lines are always open. There is always someone there waiting to take your calls. 9 times out of 10, it's that beautiful voice of Miss Susan Watson. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. And you can also email us at fortherecord, that is one word, fortherecord, at candw.ky. Of course, For the Record would not be possible without the support of our loyal sponsors. And For the Record is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance Insurance Company Limited, Tomorrow Secured. You can call them at 949-9744 or visit them in Alista Towers. Seaboard Marine, with 35 shipping routes, including from Houston, New York, Miami, and Jamaica. Visit seaboardmarine.com for shipping schedules and more. Seaboard Marine, shipping shore to shore. Fidelity Bank is also one of our big sponsors, and Fidelity Bank for all of your banking and pensions needs. You can call or visit a Fidelity branch today. And I am also advised that Cayman Reporter, and I repeat it, Cayman Reporter, is also one of our sponsors as well. And we'll have more to say about that later on and in future shows as well. First, we have someone on the line, but I'm going to take that phone call in a minute. I would like to, again, to extend on behalf of the Radio Cayman family, the staff, management and staff of Radio Cayman, to the Honorable W. McKeever Bush, leader of the opposition, on the passing of his mom yesterday. We basically say to Mr. Bush, we urge him to remain a tower of strength. There is nothing like losing a loved one, but more so the person who brought you into this world. And I know Mr. Bush and his mom were extremely close. It was only Friday when we were in the vehicle with him heading to East End that he was talking, about his mother. And one of the things that he will tell you is that she was prepared. She was well prepared for this as well. But our prayers and our thoughts go out to the family of the Honorable W. McKeever Bush. He sent me a text message to advise me that the funeral will take place on Saturday as well, and we will give you more details about the funeral as we receive them as well. Just to let you know, we will have the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, Premier of the Cayman Islands, on For the Record this morning. At some point in time, he will be on the show as well. For now, we're going to have open line until such time, and we're going to go to the phone lines. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Mr. O.C., how are you doing today?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. I hope you had a
morning. Yes, I saw the Honorable Opposition Leader yesterday as well at the hospital, and he told me, that he knew that it wasn't be long. She didn't think she would even make it through the night.
Mm-hmm.
But I am just calling to give my condolences to Honorable Nikiwa Bush, because I knew his mom when I was much younger boy down in West Bay. That's those days. She remember when we used to ride West Bay on a Sunday evening?
Right.
Oh, there were some days, Time was gone, and we got by the Quap Hall. They would pelt us. We'd have to break fruits down at Delwood when we was going to the airport on Sunday evening. So we have a good history of West Bay ourselves, no? But
we certainly do, yes.
Send my condolences to Mr. Bush, which I text him and told him to keep strong, and God would be his comforter during these times of bereavement. But Mr. Connor, you said the Premier's coming on this morning. I would like you to ask him a question for me. Please don't forget that. It's very important, because I want to hear his answer in connection with a question I've asked on the other radio station, and I wasn't successful in getting no answer, about the problem with the commissioner deciding if they don't have any Caymanian that could take that position permanently. And I remember when I was there, and I was on my way out. I was being transferred from the police department to the court system. And I know Mr. Enos was there, and I think he's been there, if it's not 30 years, it's very, very close to 30 years. And I'm wondering if he can act as the commissioner during the absence of the replacement. Why can't he take the job full time, as others that we have there, like Mr. Walton, been there for quite a while as well? And I'm saying to myself, as an ex-police officer, if these gentlemen been there so many years, they should be able to take over the position full time. So could you ask the Premier that why Mr. Enos or Mr. Walton, and a couple other ones are there as well that been there a long time, why can't they be employed full time instead of bringing someone from overseas that don't know the island running to take that position? Thank you, Mr. Conn, and I listen to hear.
Certainly. I will do that. I've made note of it, and that will certainly be done for you. I read an email that I received on Wednesday. Could have been on Wednesday. Could have been on Wednesday that I received from a listener. April the 8th. That would have been on Friday. And I'm going to read it again because the writer of the email believes that I may have used independent when the intention was to use the word interdependent. Both words were used in the email, but I will read it again slowly to ensure that we get it correct. The writer says, what we need to talk about is, quote, political independence, close quote. We will always, like all other nations, be interdependent in this world, including, nevertheless, we are well capable of governing ourselves, including Caymanians leading the police service. We've done that kind of thing in the past. So what the writer says is that we need to talk about political independence, but we will always be interdependent in the world. And there are those who will argue that no country is truly independent fully independent, because there is always that interdependence. If you, for instance, in world trade, if you don't have something, you have to rely on others to get it from them, to purchase it from them. And likewise, if you have something, others have to rely on you as well. So that interdependence is there, but we certainly can strive for political independence. So that is what the caller wanted to point out to us. I will also take the opportunity to read a letter written by, and I believe I can call the person's name in this case. He said not to. Mr. Peter Polak, who does a lot of writing, is a prominent attorney here in the Cayman Islands, and he has written to Andrew Rosendale, one of the MPs in the United Kingdom, and Andrew Rosendale is certainly a strong supporter of the overseas territories. He's actually visited the Cayman Islands at least once, maybe more than once as well. And Mr. Polak has written and said, the Cayman Islands is grateful for you springing to their defense on the matter of direct rule by misguided persons who claim to be liberal but propose super imperialism action. The recent acts of provocation locally, or the controversies surrounding the UK appointed governor and commissioner of police accepted, the Cayman Islands has enjoyed comity with their mother country, soon to be equal states in the fullness. Like all colonies, the Cayman Islands have been the beneficiary of UK support during its infancy, but as it approaches adulthood, we have to be prepared for the eventuality. A positive sign by the United Kingdom government has been the many hundreds of millions spent on an airport for the 4,000 inhabitants of St. Helena. This investment will go a long way to St. Helena reaching adulthood, should it so desire. Likewise, our islands will require the same investment to allow us to diversify our economy as the pillaging of our financial sector continues to the ultimate conclusion. A comparable sum for the 60,000 residents of the Cayman Islands for alternative economic development such as oil exploration and maritime activities would be US $5 billion, would be a US $5 billion sovereign fund. To be clear, this is not reparation, but a parent's responsibility for a child for which it has claimed. To do otherwise would be to abandon or forget your child in a dangerous and adult situation. Regards, Peter Polak. I think that reflects, quite clearly Mr. Polak's views, and I would say that it mirrors the views of many people here in the Cayman Islands. Again, we have in the past compared ourselves to an adult child. We heard one of our callers talk about that last week. That we're now an adult child, and it reaches a point when an adult child and a parent separates. The child goes his own way after being prepared for adulthood by the parent. This discussion will continue to take place in the Cayman Islands now, and it is good that in this case it has been raised, the topic has been raised by the leader of the opposition in the UK in relation to his call for direct rule over the Cayman Islands and other territories if we fail to comply with their directives, especially on the issue of the register of beneficial ownership and other things as well. So they have raised the issue. We need to continue the conversation now, and we need to start to prepare ourselves for any eventuality. We have to start looking down the road. We have to try to see where we may be blindsided one way or the other and start to prepare ourselves. We see where the Cayman Islands government has now indicated that they have sought legal advice in relation to the issue of direct rule. We will have constitutional lawyers looking at our constitution to see what's in there. It is unfortunate, though, that during the direct rule that took place when the Turks and Caicos were brought under administration, that yes, we did hear from CARICOM, we did hear from other Caribbean nations in terms of the dangerous precedent that it was setting, but it was done with almost a bated voice, simply because there were those who believed that the Michael Missick government were irresponsible in their actions in terms of what they were doing, and certainly that needed to be addressed. So while they welcomed the intervention by the UK government in relation to what they were doing with Michael Missick, we possibly didn't look at the whole picture in terms of someday it could possibly happen to you as well. We have to take a break at this point in time. When we come back, I will introduce my guest to you. We also have one caller online. Folks, you've been listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Stuart Connor. My guest in the studio with me this morning, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, Premier of the Cayman Islands. When we return from this commercial break, he will be introduced. Please stay tuned. For the Record, we'll be back shortly. Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Stuart Connor. My guest in the studio with me this morning, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, Premier of the Cayman Islands. Premier, good morning and welcome back to For the Record.
Good morning, OC. Good morning to the listening public. It's good to be back this morning to talk about some important issues. But before we start, I too would like to voice with you in expressing condolences to the Honorable Makiva Bush on the loss of his dear mother, Faith. Miss Faith, I was in contact with him last night, and as you said on the radio, he said the great comfort to him was that she was completely prepared. But none of us, no matter how long we have them, no matter how ill they are ever quite ready for the loss of a loved one. And as I said to him, there's no love like a mother's love. And the loss of a mother is something I don't think you ever quite get over. You just learn to live with it. Mine has been gone for a number of years now, 8 years this year already, believe it or not. But I miss her every day. And so my heartfelt condolences to Mark and his entire family on the loss of his mother.
Certainly. Before we get into the conversation, we're going to take a caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
I suppose one thing I got to say about the Turtle Farm Saturday, there was a lot of people down there, and everybody seen how the children enjoyed it, especially the children part. The little pool where the children was, it was full. I hope now, not because it was free-sided, that everybody going to forget now to carry the children down there. So I hope they can make that at least every month in they carry the children down there to have fun, to support the Turtle Farm. That's all I got to say this morning.
Thank you very much, caller, for that, and certainly a good point, and maybe a good point for the management of the Turtle Farm as well, to look at having special occasions like this where you seek to have more local participation, and you have some sort of perk there to do that, and make it a part. The same way that Rum Point is a big thing on a Sunday. for everyone, for boaters and for people who drive up there and stuff like that. Let's make the turtle farm a part of the conversation and a part of our routine as well, and support our local government entities as well. Premier, we have about 5 minutes before we go off to the news, but I'd like to get you started, on the conversation in terms of...
But before we get started,
sure.
this is a good point, given the last caller's intervention. For me to say what I haven't been able to say because I've been so engaged with other things is, publicly, congratulations to Radio Cayman on 40 years of outstanding, remarkable service to the Cayman Islands.
Yes.
I remember as clear as day when Radio Cayman first started and how excited we were. I was 15 years old at the time, and it seems unbelievable now, but the only sort of radio station we had was before that was the FM station up at ICCI, which of course only operated for a few hours a day. And indeed, initially, Radio Cayman only operated for a few hours a day. And, those are things that will stay with me forever. I always remember, they don't have them anymore. It was called Pick Up the Pops, which played all of the top 40 hits of a particular show and country classics in particular. And who can ever forget, the serials, soaps, whatever you want to call them, House of Gold and I've forgotten what the other one was that was so incredibly popular, because this was before the days that we had. Obviously, we didn't have. We barely had radio, so we certainly didn't have television. So we spent a lot of time listening to Radio Cayman, and over the years, it has proved an incredible source of information and entertainment for the people of these islands, and long may it continue.
Certainly. We can give a little tease to our listening audience in terms of some of the things that we want to talk about today as well. Of course, the UK and decisions and iterations that have been made in the UK in relation to the overseas territories, Bermuda, BVI, the Cayman Islands, despite in the Panama Papers, we have not seen so far a whole lot of mention of the Cayman Islands. And when you look at the charts in relation to where Mossack Fonseca did business, very little in the Cayman Islands. As a matter of fact, one of our listeners here sent me a message and said that when they were in Panama, they were talking to a lawyer, and the lawyer said, we don't do business with Cayman because it is too difficult to do business in the Cayman Islands. Too many regulations and everything else. So that speaks volumes.
There are another number of other reasons, but I really would like us to explore that discussion today at some length, and the whole question of this threat, if I may frame it as such, of direct rule. And I also would like to talk a bit, without going into a great deal of detail, about the press conference that I've called today for 11 o'clock to make a major announcement really with respect to Cayman going forward on the whole issue of beneficial ownership. That announcement really will follow what I think will be a major announcement by the Prime Minister David Cameron in the UK Parliament a little later this morning, Cayman time, afternoon, UK time. But that really is the product of an immense amount of work over a number of years, accelerated without question by what has occurred with respect to the disclosures from the Panama Papers. But I won't say a great deal about that on this show because I have a press conference scheduled for 11, except to say that I am pleased with where we've managed to get to from a Cayman perspective. Immense amount of work, and I can't tell you the stress involved. But we can talk about that, and we can talk about Jeremy Corbyn's preposterous assertions and demands, and about where Cayman is constitutionally. And I also want to talk a bit about the reasons why the government has decided that we are not going to entertain or accommodate the holding of this special meeting on Wednesday, but instead we'll wait until the 25th, the week of the 25th, when the scheduled meeting of the House begins, to deal with the opposition motions. So that really is what I would like to talk about today, but obviously we are always directed by what callers want to talk about, and I'm happy to take those calls as well.
Certainly, folks, I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Stuart Connor. My guest in the studio with me this morning is the Honourable Alden McLaughlin, Premier of the Cayman Islands. Please stay tuned. For the Record will be back immediately after the news. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Stuart Connor. My guest in the studio with me, the Honourable Alden McLaughlin, Premier of the Cayman Islands. And I'm going to turn the mic right over to him at this point in time. Premier.
Morning, see, you're the only Caymanian I know that calls me Alden. That's what English people call me.
Yes, they are.
Everybody else calls me Alden. Yes, as I said, I've called a press conference for 11 o'clock this morning to make a major announcement and to update the country on where we are with respect to this issue of the provision of beneficial ownership information to the United Kingdom's law enforcement and tax regulatory authorities. And as I said, I am quite pleased with where we've reached. And I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail about that. But as I said, no doubt, these discussions have been going on since we took office in 2013 about where we get the back and forth and so forth. And of course, we have been insistent that what we would prepare to agree to was not a public central register, but what we call a centralized platform by which information is provided to these law enforcement authorities on request. So that discussion will take place when we have the press conference at 11, and as I said, it will be preceded by an announcement in the UK Parliament by the Prime Minister. I think about 9:30 our time, 3:30 their time. So, but as I also said, no doubt, the being able to conclude this has been accelerated and encouraged by the Panama Papers and the fallout from that, and the immense pressure that the UK and particularly the Prime Minister has been under as a result of his family's association with Mossack Fonseca, the law firm,
yes,
and the establishment
of a trust
by his father of trust or some form of offshore entity in places other than Cayman. But the discussion about this thing continues to rage, particularly in the UK. I was up very, very early this morning. I guess I went to sleep too early. I was up at 3:30, and while I was in my gym, I had the TV on, and I was watching one of these sort of round table discussions that they had, and this was one of the issues about the whole question of how ethical it is to avoid tax, not evade now, avoid tax, and that usual discussion going on. So the issue really is no longer just about the use of offshore jurisdictions or international financial centers as entities to facilitate money laundering or to evade tax. The discussion is now about the appropriateness, the ethics of, in fact, finding lawful means to avoid paying
more.
tax.
Yes.
It's a whole new dimension to this. And so, with the discussion having turned that way, there is no question that international financial centers such as the Cayman Islands are going to continue to be under immense pressure by those who think that we should not be allowed to be in this business. Of course, much of that discussion is by people who either don't know or don't care to know or to appreciate the role that international financial centers like the Cayman Islands, which are tax-neutral jurisdictions in the sense that we have no form of direct taxation, the role that we play in facilitating global finance and global business, because places like Cayman form or create a very attractive jurisdiction or platform in which international agreements can be made, because there is no added tax element as a result of the agreement being done in the Cayman Islands. Obviously, whatever jurisdiction the entities come from and whatever their tax rules are need to be complied with. So if a tax is attracted as a result of the transaction, let me just use that, by a UK company, then that tax is properly payable in the UK, then that's properly payable in the UK. And if the other country was a German company, similarly so. But there is no new element of tax created as a result of the agreement having been made in the Cayman Islands or using a Cayman entity, as the case may be. So, international financial services is our most important industry. It has a greater contribution to our GDP than does tourism. But tourism is critically important, and I don't want those involved in tourism now to call up and say, I don't care about tourism. That's not my point. The point I'm making is that this is just so very important to Cayman's continued viability and success, and that we have to continue to fight our corner in every respect to ensure that this remains a viable industry. And this has involved a great deal of the government's time and energy, well, over the course of the last few years, but particularly in the last few months, and even more so after the Panama Papers story broke last Monday. It has engaged us immensely, and I want to pay tribute to Minister Panton and the team he leads, led the civil service team being led by Dr. Dax Bastio, the incredible work that they have done over, as I say, years now, but the immense pressure that we've all been under over the course of the last month, and particularly over the course of the last week. And I also need to give credit to Her Excellency and her team there, who have really helped us fight our corner with the engagement with Number 10, with the Cabinet Office in the UK, and with the FCO. And as I say, I think we've gotten to a very, very good place at the moment. Of course, this is a dynamic thing. It's always changing. That as soon as you seem to have resolved one set of issues, another set comes barreling down, down the tube at you. But that's just the nature of this game. I mean, I've been involved in this from, I'd say, probably about 1998, when I was president of the Bar Association, and indeed it was issues around the financial services and international initiatives that were being driven then that sort of catapulted me into politics in 2000. That certainly was not my plan. I'm a person who likes to plan my life, and I had just really started to find a good place in law. I'd been a partner at that point for about 5 years, and was doing some really, really good work. That was not my plan to go into politics in 2000. It was always something I wanted to do, but I'd planned later in life. But someone once said, life is what happens to you while you're busy making plans. But the point I'm making about that is that this is something that I have been engaged with for a very long time. Sometimes more so than others, depending on where you sit in government, whether you're in the opposition or whether you're in government. I had responsibility for some aspects of financial services when I was minister from 2005 to 2009, and now as premier, I have the benefit of an extremely experienced and knowledgeable minister in the person of the Honorable Wayne Panton, who's responsible, because we're the first government that has actually had a ministry dedicated to financial services. But the nature of the business is such, and the constitutional arrangement is such, that as premier, I am the one who signs off on these things, and I'm the one who ultimately they want to talk to when these agreements are done. So I've had to be engaged significantly in this over the course of the last few years, and particularly over the course of the last month and the last week.
Okay. I want to read something for a listening audience and for you also, Premier. And this is a letter that was written in to the Guardian. And part of it, one paragraph says, the offshore industry is to these small islands as steel is to Port Talbot. It is woven into the fabric of society. It shapes our lives and lifestyles. But its dominance comes with as many costs as there are benefits, and the fear of losing it tops the list. The lure of steady work administering spreadsheet is offset by the lack of opportunities in other areas. When a community depends on one industry for 42% of its income, as Jersey does, young people look to pursue their dreams elsewhere, creating a demographic hole and an aging population that will look very unattractive to today's children. When you read that, before you come to the word Jersey, you would swear that was someone in the Cayman Islands writing that.
Except for the last couple of lines.
Yeah, so except for
Yeah, about the aging population.
Yes, and
so
stuff
forth.
like that, yes.
That we haven't started to see play out in Cayman. But having most of your eggs in one basket is never a good thing. But there's no question that international financial services, as we now call them, and tourism are what have brought the Cayman Islands to the point we are now. We are looking to diversify, and I think we need to accelerate our efforts. Health tourism and other things, Cayman Enterprise City and all that brings in sort of on the tech side of business opportunities are things that we need to continue to pursue and to look for others. I mean, one of the great challenges in Cayman has always been that the cost of labor is so high. So we're not a place that can actually go to sort of your run-of-the-mill manufacturing kind of exercises, because what we'd have to charge for the end product would be so expensive we wouldn't be able to sell it anywhere. So we have to do as we're doing, look to products and services for which you can charge higher prices, so that we can afford the labor and our people can continue to have a lifestyle, in general terms, not everybody unfortunately, but in general terms, a lifestyle that remains the envy of just about everywhere in the region.
Now, you earlier mentioned tax avoidance and tax evasion. Would you say that the evasion part of it more involves going outside the system that has been established, as opposed to avoidance, where you work within the system but you find the loopholes, the legal loopholes Precisely. That are there that allow you to do that? Like, for instance, David Cameron's family have done, where they have given to want to spread out what his father left for his children. One of his one person got the house, and they claimed then that by giving David Cameron, I think it was either 100,000 or 200,000, that was to even things out there. But it was given in the form of an inheritance, and as long as the person who gave it to him, his mother, stays alive for at least 7 years after that inheritance has been given, then it doesn't become taxable. But all of that stuff is illegal. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know all of those details. But yes, the difference is tax evasion is a breach of the law. Tax avoidance is, as you say, finding ways to avoid the tax legally. Because places like the United Kingdom have all sorts of things that Caymanians would even begin to say, what are you doing to me, death duties and so forth, and transfer tax on an inheritance tax and a whole range of things that just don't apply in places like the Cayman Islands. And so there are legal ways of, when you set up these trusts and these arrangements, that you can pass the value of the asset on without incurring the tax that would normally attract in the United Kingdom. For an example, I say that is not a comment on Mr. Cameron's arrangements, because I don't know about them.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to comment. It's a general statement of what I understand the law to be.
Yeah, I've done a lot of reading on it just to get an understanding of it. There was an article that pointed out how, the various taxes that were introduced in the UK in years. At one point in time, they had a beard tax. And people got around that by simply shaving. They had a window tax that you paid a tax on every window that you had in your house, and then people blocked them up. And there are still buildings in the United Kingdom now where you can see the rails there, but that there was a window there, but it has been blocked up. They had a hat tax at one point in time. All sorts of taxes goes to show you the ways that government go about to ensure that they get their share of the money so that they can spend it in whatever ways they are. Folks, I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Stuart Connor, and my guest in the studio with me this morning is the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, Premier of the Cayman Islands. Please stay tuned. We will be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Stuart Connor. My guest in the studio with me this morning, the Honorable Premier of the Cayman Islands, Honorable Alden McLaughlin. I want to remind you that our phone lines are open, so if you have any questions relating to what we're talking about, or any other questions that are permissible, please feel free to call. The Premier is prepared to take your calls. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 or 949-6990. Also, email for the record at candw.ky. Now, Premier, we'll talk about the leader of the opposition in the UK, leader of the Labour Party, Mr. Jeremy Corbyn, who made the remark that the territories should be brought under direct rule. Now, we see, based on remarks from someone written to The Guardian from the Channel Islands, that when he talks about the territories, he includes the Channel Islands and as well as the Crown dependencies in there. So he didn't cherry pick in this case. He swiped a broad brush across everyone. Now, in the past, Mr. Corbyn has been criticized by his critics, not only from the Conservative side, but within his own party, when there was the fight for the party leadership, of being shallow in some areas and naive in some areas. What are your views in relation to his comments and the realities of it happening?
Well, they're really the utterances of someone who clearly has little appreciation of constitutional law or the relationship of the UK and its various territories. it is a populist statement, aimed at an enraged electorate in the UK who are already up in arms about the fact that Prime Minister Cameron or his family, particularly his father, may have benefited as a result of the use of offshore jurisdictions, international financial services jurisdictions. And so he is, milking that for everything he possibly can. But if in fact he is really serious about the imposition of direct rule, it is something that we have to take very seriously. And as I said, we had engaged Professor Jeffrey Jowell in any event to assist us with the negotiations with the UK over the whole beneficial ownership issue, because it has a number of constitutional points, particularly as the Bill of Rights and the European Convention on Human Rights are concerned. When you're talking about the provision of information that belongs to someone else and the right to privacy and so forth. And so, I've engaged him on behalf of the government to also look after our interests if in the case that there is any move on anybody's part in the UK to pursue that route, because we know the UK has done that in the past. The most recent example is Turks and Caicos Islands, which you spoke about in your introduction. And so it is possible. And in every instance that I am aware, whenever the UK has done that, it has ended pretty disastrously. And that is not something that the Cayman Islands would want or could afford. And so I take the threat very, very seriously. I am, as you know, and I think the people of this country know, I am not one who is given to to bombast and not one who, makes threats and pounds my chest. That's just not my way. Some people think I should do more of it. I'm encouraged by certain people to do that. You don't say enough, and you don't say it loud enough, and you don't stand up for us enough. Well, there's no one. There may be some who love this country as much as I do, and who will fight as hard as I will do for Cayman. But there's nobody who will do so more than I do. I just don't believe that everything that we do, particularly when we're dealing with the UK or any international agency or country, that everything you do, you should make public. It often goes against getting the best possible result. And I believe it is the result that matters far more than the noise that people make before they actually get a result. Of course, there was always and always remains the possibility of an order in council being issued by the UK, which doesn't involve the assumption of direct control over the islands, but the UK has used in the past as well when it wanted to get its way with respect to certain legislation. And so that is a threat that we also had to bear in mind in the course of all of these discussions and negotiations. And so I've made sure that we've had the best access to the best possible legal advice, and that we made sure and continue to make sure that the interests of these islands are protected. And if fight is necessary, fight we will do. Wherever we need to do it, whether it's in the courts or in the United Nations. But I always believe that if public fights can be avoided, that is in the best interest of both parties.
Okay.
And I just want to make this point, which I've made publicly before in a statement, is that which I issued on, I think it was Thursday. I have no indications whatsoever in my discussions with the UK. And as I said, these discussions have involved representatives from Number 10, from the Cabinet Office in the UK, from the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. No indications whatsoever that the UK government is contemplating direct rule. that is a creature, I think, entirely of Jeremy Corbyn and those who sort of support his view.
Okay, thank you for that, Premier. We have one caller online, two callers. Let's go to the phone lines. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Osi.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, Mario Ebanks. How you doing?
Fine, and yourself?
Yeah, fine. Good morning to the Honourable Premier, Mr. Alden.
Good morning, Mr. Mario. How are you, sir?
Fine. I give my surname because there's another Mario calls in, so I want to make sure that they're not confused. I just want to call, sir, to congratulate you on the decision, and I saw it in the Compass last night. I still read the Compass reluctantly, but anyway, I saw it in the front on the headlines, and I was very proud of you, and I was second only to your sterling performance sometime last year before on the Hard Talk in the UK when you did that sterling job at the interview there. So I just want to say congratulations. I don't know if you...
Thank you. I haven't seen the story, but thank you.
Yes, I think we need to take a stand, and I think it's excellent that you've taken that bold move, a right move, and I think it's right that whenever we are challenged, globally, whether it's our economy is challenged or our social values are challenged, that we take a stand and do what we got to do under the rule of law. And I want to congratulate you. I don't know if you know about it or you've spoken about it this morning yet, but I also want to extend sympathies to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, we have.
Yes, we have. I was in contact with him last night, so
right.
Yes.
But sir, I just want to say that in regards to the UK, I know you know all this, but just to emphasize it, I mean, I assume that the Leader of the Opposition in the UK, the Labour Party, understands the rule of law. I hope that he understands democracy and this partnership for progress and prosperity that the UK has structured with the overseas territories. I mean, this kind of action that he's talking about, whether how it's our way or we're going to take you over. That really is not rule of law or democracy or any kind of partnership. What do they want us to do? We have an economy here that is driven by services, and what do they want us to do? Do they want us to align with China or Russia, or do they want us to even contemplate illegal activities? We're doing a good, solid, clean business, and yet they don't seem that they want to satisfy with that because, of course, places like London, as you know, and Delaware and Nevada and Wyoming, they're also competitors, and many of them are not as regulated as we are in the Cayman Islands. So I think that, I'm not sure what your press conference announcement will be today or the Prime Minister in the UK's announcement, but I just want to, to thank you for taking that stand and emphasizing to all and sundry around the world that the Cayman is not an unregulated tax haven. We are a first-class financial services center. We're not a money laundering center. We abide by high standards of international best practices. And our financial services industry and our economy is built around, developing structures and also governance to foster global commerce. And so if places like Cayman that are well-regulated fall by the wayside, it could have a tremendous negative impact on global commerce. So I just want to thank you and the government and just call this morning for unity. I think this is these international pressure that we are facing requires us to pull together, united as never before, to be able to challenge and to surmount these types of things. So thank you for leading the way, sir. Have a good day, and thanks for your time. And unless you have any questions, I will make way for the next caller.
No, thank you very much, Mario. Cayman needs more advocates like you who understand what it is that Cayman has done and where we are on the global stage with respect to anti-money laundering, how robust our the measures we have in place are, and the rules that we have also to counter serious crime and tax evasion. And you also understand in a way that a lot of people outside of Cayman certainly don't understand how important the role is that Cayman plays in facilitating global finance. And as you say, if well-regulated jurisdictions like the Cayman Islands are put out of business, what the world will wind up with are more Panamas.
Exactly. So keep keep up the good work, and let's all pull together and work together. And have a good day, and God bless.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. Next caller, please. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, gentlemen. Number one from the Brook.
Good morning, number one. How are
Morning,
you?
sir. Long time no hear from.
Yeah, well, I wasn't well. I was up in Miami and all that, but
Are you doing better now?
yes, I got back home.
It's good to know that
Okay,
you're much
good.
better.
Good.
Yeah, drinking a cup of coffee, thank God.
All right.
I don't have to get a cup of tea.
Well, I can't have you saying that because I like my cup of tea.
Well, that's your
Coffee,
problem, but
coffee
I
hurts
don't-
my stomach.
I does not drink that, sir. I like my strong coffee. Alan,
Yes, sir.
I got to tell you this. And don't take it in the wrong way. Don't you make nobody walk over you and your government, whether they come talking about the tax and the money and the this and that. They're just trying to destroy the Cayman Islands. I've been telling you that. When it comes to England, they're just jealous, no matter which one. Make the Prime Minister go put in all his papers. Make the Queen go put in all of hers. Every other one. Leave the Cayman Islands alone, England. Only just jealous. That's the problem with them. I don't want the banks back there. Don't make them walk over you, sir.
All I can tell you, my friend, as long as I'm here, I am going to fight Cayman's Corner with everything that we have.
Well, I'm going to say this. Whether it's you, it's Uncle Mac, or whoever is in charge, don't make them walk over you once you know you're right. Stand up for it. If you can march, have march for gas price, you can have march to stay legal as you are. And I think the Cayman Islands has not done nothing wrong, and that's just the problem of the world. They're just bloody well jealous of all the banks and what's going on here with tourism and everything else. Okay, sir? I should say gentlemen.
Thank you very much, number one. Thanks
All right,
for
thank you.
your
Thank you.
expressions.
Bye.
Want to shift gears because this caller did call in real early this morning, and don't want to deprive him of his opportunity to hear an answer. His concern was that in replacing Commissioner Baines, whether or not Caymanian would be considered for the job, and his point was that Mr. Innes has acted on many occasions. Why isn't he capable of assuming the leadership of the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, or for that matter, any other Caymanian?
Well, I think that Anthony Innes is quite capable of assuming that role. I think the question is whether or not it is something he wishes to do. And I'm not going to, although I have been told various things, I am not going to say anything about that. But the position is going to be advertised in the usual way. And if Mr. Innes, Deputy Commissioner Innes, for whom I have a lot of regard, is interested, no doubt he will apply. I don't want to get into the realm of
Exactly, yeah, the
speculating
personalities,
about,
yes.
about this and to go into people's mind, because I've never had a discussion with him about that or with any of them about that. But I'm told things, given where I am, I get lots of things told to me. But I'm not one who speculates, and I'm not one who jumps to conclusions. I like to see the evidence.
Okay. Folks, I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Stuart Connor, and my guest in the studio with me this morning is the Honourable Alden McLaughlin, Premier of the Cayman Islands. Please stay tuned for The Record. We'll be back shortly. When we come back, we will be going until 9:15 without a commercial break. But the show will, of course, go on until 9:30 as well. We have two callers. We ask them to remain patient, because as soon as we come from the commercial break, we will be taking their calls. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're going straight to the phone lines. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, gentlemen. This is Johan Moxham. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Mr. McLaughlin.
Good morning.
Sir, I just wanted to call in and acknowledge and say thank you for the efforts being made, the engagement of a constitutional expert like Sir Jeffrey Jowell to aid the Cayman cause. I think strategically is a great move. To borrow a phrase from you, I think the ramblings or rantings of the leader of the Labour Party, leader of the opposition, Jeremy Corbyn, are nothing more than opposition politics, and really nonsensical for him or anybody to think that direct rule is something that is plausible or necessary at this stage, especially with a jurisdiction like ours. But I just wanted to publicly acknowledge, I think, what is a sharp move on your part to get us whatever help is necessary, because the stakes are really high. They're playing a very dangerous game, and ensuring the protection of our success as a country, I think, is paramount. So I just wanted, if I can call in and give you grief on other issues, I can be man enough to call in and say, well done on this play here, because I think it's timely and necessary. Adding to that, given the concerns and the sort of paranoia that come out of the sort of Panama Papers, I would ask that prior to agreeing anything final with the UK, if at all possible in your negotiations, to use the information that is coming out of that as leverage to ensure that Cayman does get the best possible deal or situation out of it. Because for anybody to think that Mr. Cameron and his family are the only UK representatives to utilize offshore tax structures, I think that would be a bit of a stretch. I think this is a huge black eye and embarrassment to the UK government. The fact that Cayman, as you've said, as Mr. Mario Ebanks said, is a first-class jurisdiction, not interested in any way, shape, or form of harboring or condoning sort of tax evaders. I think that has to be mentioned, and if at all possible, I would ask that there be a comprehensive sort of PR campaign in the foreign press that highlights the fact that don't dismiss Cayman or round us up like everybody else. I think our history, the infrastructure, the laws, the regulations, and the stability speaks for itself in comparison to a lot of our competitors. So I would, if at all possible, if you haven't signed up to any agreements yet, take them to the edge of the cliff, edge of the wire, and ensure that the world understands the hypocrisy being used by the major countries where Cayman is made to be the bad guy, but yet it's probably easier to open an account, launder funds, or an unnamed sort of entity in any of those countries, especially the US and the UK. The UK doesn't have any of the sort of KYC standards that we have here in doing business, and those are just facts. But the protection of our financial services industry, which is the main driver of our economy, cannot be overlooked. And for you and Minister Panton to take the charge in that, I think it's a fantastic thing, and I just wanted to say thank you. The second thing is, given the fact that you and Minister Panton and possibly Minister Archer are focused in on dealing with this major issue with the UK, hopefully you can encourage those that are not in the inner sanctum or not heavily involved in the negotiations to show up and represent the rest of us who have major concerns about issues impacting us day to day. I think you're handling the international arena quite well. You did a fantastic job on Hardline, but I think if you listen to the concerns of the general public, there are some issues in regards to dealing with crime and the sort of poor response and performance by the RCIPS. Perhaps you can encourage some of your backbench members to represent your party and to just give respect to the concerns of citizens who really dread for where Cayman is going, whilst you focus in on the big ticket items that you're dealing with. I just wanted to call and share that with you and say, if there's anything that I can do in my personal capacity to help you, please don't hesitate to call. I normally send you articles and reach out to you. But also, everybody that loves this country has to get behind the movement and the efforts that you're making, because it's really us against the world right about now. And I think when you turn around, you need to be able to see 35, 55,000 Caymanian people going, we're right there with you, Mr. Premier. Thank you very much, so that you have the energy to keep going and don't feel that it's for naught. So that's all I wanted to say. And again, thank you for your efforts, sir.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Johan. Coming from from you, that is really, really high praise. I'm a bit tongue-tied. I'm not sure what to say. But seriously, thank you very much. Everything you said is dead on. I want you to believe that I think we have put Cayman in the best possible place we can given the present circumstances. And as I said before, for the present, because we all are fully aware that this thing is constantly moving, constantly evolving, and developments are constantly occurring. On the issue about crime front, we're all very much engaged with that. We have our concerns. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but I really don't think that bringing a motion to the House seeking to have a declaration of the House that we have no confidence in the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service is the answer to the issues that we face. What do we do if, having recorded such a declaration by the elected members of the Assembly, we are faced with mass resignations from the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service? One of the great issues that I have with this motion is the framers of the motion, MLAs Arden McLean and Ezra Miller, seem to lack the courage to call a spade. And if they were going after David Baines, they should have gone after David Baines. Not that I agree with them going after him, but if that's what they intended, that's what they should have done. And not bring a motion which seeks to record that the House has no confidence in the entire Royal Cayman Islands Police Service or its governance. The impact that will have on the morale of the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, if the House does, in fact, make such a declaration, is something I don't want to contemplate. The reality is that while there are issues and concerns about the police service, there are a lot of very, very good police officers who get up every single morning or every single night, depending on when they go to work, and give this country their very, very best. And the truth of the matter is, if you stand back from the anecdotes and the incidents which receive tremendous prominence, the overall, the crime statistics are much better now than they were when we took office 3 years ago. Of course, that is of little comfort to the individual or individuals who have been impacted by a crime. They don't care about statistics. They just know what has occurred with respect to them. But I have to tell you that in the almost 16 years since I've been elected, I don't think I've ever seen a more irresponsible motion filed in the Legislative Assembly, one that obviously has the framers of which had no regard to the potential impact that such a declaration will have on the national security of these islands. We've already seen one of the results is the departure of David Baines, which I believe to have been the objective of those members. I don't think that's the right result. I think what we've done now is we've just made things that much worse, both in terms of the succession planning, which was I'm aware of, which was in place. Mr. Baines would have demitted office about March of next year in any event. The governor has decided that because of the circumstances that he's entitled to be paid for the balance of his contract. So there's that financial cost, but I think more importantly is the impact all of that will have on being able to recruit the kind of police commissioner that we need swiftly. When people believe that the jobs that they're coming to are jobs that are risky, the terms of the employment get that much tougher. They will seek penalties for and compensation clauses with respect to matters like this occurring. If commissioners are forced out of office because of lack of confidence motions and so forth, then the job becomes subject to, it is one of those, how they call him again, was he political? Yeah, he becomes a political exposed person, a politically exposed post. All of those things come with premiums attached to it if you're going to take up the position. Okay. So, as I say, a motion which sought to have a review of the police service done, a review of the governance of the police service, those sorts of things, those I would think would be quite proper and in order and responsible. But a motion which seeks to record a lack of confidence of the Legislative Assembly in the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service is the height of irresponsibility.
Now, you mentioned the fact that, the governor, I believe, stated that the commissioner was being paid based on the terms of his contract. You made reference to the fact that that because of what has occurred, the governor has determined that he should be paid the remainder of his salary. And I know you can't speak for the governor, but would it be proper then for the public, since the public's money is being spent on paying the commissioner off for the full year, to at least have sight of that portion of the contract which the governor uses as a basis for paying him for the next year?
Well, I'm sure the contract, like all public service contracts, is FOIable. If the governor doesn't voluntarily release it, it's not a confidential thing. I wouldn't expect he's a public servant. Mm-hmm. But understand that there isn't any particular provision that is being relied on. From my discussions with Her Excellency, when this occurred, because it occurred over the weekend, right? David Baines was granted a 4-year contract by
previous Governor Duncan
Taylor, which would expire in May of this year. May of next year. But I gather, given accumulated vacation and those sorts of things, he would probably have demitted office in about March of next year. So what he was faced with and what the governor was faced with is a motion brought by 2 members of the House, supported by a letter calling for a special meeting signed by 8 members of the House, which seeks to have the House declare a lack of confidence in the entire Royal Cayman Islands Police Service and its governance. Arguably, that extends all the way up to the governor. And so, from my understanding, I haven't spoken to the man about this. David Baines took the position that his authority and his credibility as police commissioner was so undermined by that and other things, such as the attacks by MLA Bernard Bush in particular on another radio show and public statements he made to the media, so undermined his credibility and authority that he could no longer function as police commissioner and exercise the authority that he needs over his officers and generally with respect to the community.
But wouldn't the motion itself...
Just let me finish. And Her Excellency herself was satisfied that that was the case. And as she said, in those circumstances, I can't have a police commissioner operating without authority, without credibility. It is not his doing that has brought this about. The precipitating act or acts are those of elected members of the Legislative Assembly.
Mm-hmm. But we know when it comes...
I'm not arguing the case for anybody.
I understand that.
I am explaining what I understand to be the situation.
Another position, forward as well. Motions, private members' motions in the Legislative Assembly are simply motions. They can be accepted by the government or they can be defeated by a vote. Where the government has the majority. So at the end of the day, other than public perception, if the motion were to have been defeated in the Legislative Assembly, then it comes to naught. So it is only members of the Legislative Assembly saying what they feel about the police, the administration of the police, Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. But by it being defeated in the Legislative Assembly, then it's back to naught. I'm sure that the commissioner during his tenure here in the Cayman Islands has withstood much more public criticism as opposed to criticism coming from 8 members of the Legislative Assembly.
Well, no doubt that is the case, but the result would still be there are 8 members of elected members of the House who have recorded their or who have sought a declaration that the House does not have confidence in the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service or its governance.
Okay. So we've 2 callers on the line. We've been holding them for quite a while, and we want to thank them for being so patient. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yes, Mr. O.C.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Morning.
Morning, Mr. Ivan. How are you?
Mr. Honorable McLaughlin, Premier of the Cayman Islands. This is Ivan.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I waited so long, I forgot what I had to say.
Oh,
sorry about that.
That's OC doing now, mine, sir. Sorry.
I'll take the blame.
That too. First, I want to give my condolences to the leader of the opposition and his brother and all the sisters for the loss of Miss Faith. There's never something like that we can get used to, but if we live long enough, it probably happened to us.
Indeed.
Guess where I got to start now. I'm talking about beans. I don't want to get in that.
Before that, we were talking about direct rule and Jericho.
Direct rule. Yeah. Okay. I think it's time for us to start having dialogue, start having meetings, and educate our people towards it. It mightn't happen in my lifetime, but one of these days it's going to happen. And if you're not prepared for independence, that's a disaster.
Yep.
4 years ago, I ran with a team that run on a full intelligence of government ticket, and we picked up four seats out of 12. And ever since that, especially the older people, just say West Bay, if you mention independent or self-government, that's a bad thing. I had several meetings about it. I mean, in my district, and every meeting I brings up the subject. Prepared for it. Let's talk about it. Let's see what steps we got to make before we get to it. Prepare. One of these days, you get somebody walk up this crowd, get enough signatures, go there and get it, and you're not prepared for it. And if you can't behave yourself, one of these days, England say, well, I'm not going away. And we're not prepared. They keep showing us Jamaica. I don't think we can send independent to send Jamaica to here. They're not showing you Barbados or New Zealand or Australia or even the big USA. They got their independence. So it's nothing wrong with, at one time we were financial independent. That's the time to talk about it then. So I want these younger ones now that knows a lot about these things more than me, because the older ones, not me, I'm not afraid of it, but some of the older ones, they preach it to us, that like a cancer to each up. They went far to tell us that you don't have to touch the Constitution, or you got to look at it, you got independent, which is not the truth. So it's time for Cayman younger ones now to get on the ball and start talking about it, including you, Mr. Honorable Alden. Talk about it.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. get the fear out of some of these people about independence. And I'm telling you, we must go independent 5 years from now, 10 years, or 20 years, but something we should be talking about. And so at that, I can leave you all. And Mr. Premier, I think you're doing a good job. Coming back to Mr. Baines, I got mixed feeling about paying him, what you explained yourself just now. But if you has strong feeling not to pay him, let the governor pay him, because she can pay without you okaying it. If I'm wrong, tell me when I get through. Up till now, I think she can still order the financial secretary to sign checks. I believe that is still there, and it's too long now. And we should have a little more say. I don't know why. I got a good idea why we now have more say with the police in our new constitution. I got an idea why it never happened, but we should have more say who we choose for a commissioner of police.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much, Mr. Ipan.
Thank you very much. I just want to address those 2 points if
Sure.
I could. The first one about independence. Cayman is in many respects independent. We're certainly financially independent, even through the hard times that we've been through, whether it was Ivan or whether it was the recession that lasted 7-8 years when we had all of these austerity measures and so forth in place. The UK has never given us a penny. So the issue is really for us not about financial independence in that regard. The issue is more broadly about us being able to manage ourselves as a country, as a independent nation in the world. Not about local governance issues are my concern, but the UK is responsible for almost all of our international affairs, except those very limited areas that they've delegated responsibility to myself and some of the ministers.
But on a day-to-day basis, how much of that do they really do?
Well,
other than when it comes to treaties and agreements,
it's easy to take that for granted because you don't have to do it. But we would have to have ambassadors to various places. We'd have to have.
Would we?
Of course we would. How are you going to engage? I mean, Cayman does not live in a cocoon, right? So, how are you going to engage in a whole range of issues, whether it is financial services or tourism-related matters or whatever it is? When you become an independent nation, a lot of things we take for granted would become things that we actually had to stand up and pay for, as well as find the people to do it.
But what do we say about those small territories that have been able to do it and not take on those additional financial burdens
But they have had to. They have had to.
In some instances, but some they have been able to do without them.
My point is not that Cayman can't or that Cayman shouldn't. My point is that we have to prepare ourselves and our people as a country to be able to do so. Of course, I think we'll be able to do it as long as we are properly prepared to do.
Yeah. And we'll find we will find innovative ways of doing it. We'll use smart people to come up. But our problem in the world is, in many instances, and others are way ahead of us, are way ahead of others on it, is that if we think outside of the box and move away from the traditional approach that has always been taken in terms of how things are done, we can find that it can happen so much easier, trying it another way.
But there's one thing, and because your child at 16 looks mature and speaks maturely, doesn't mean that you want to push them out of the door because they don't have all of the other things they need to actually make a go of it in life. That's kind of how I see Cayman. The one bit that's missing from my experience, the one bit that's missing is that we just don't have yet the cadre of of people, of Caymanians, who are able to operate at the diplomatic level that is required when you become an independent nation. Mm-hmm. We need more of us who have that kind of international experience to be able to make it. The only way we're going to get that experience is by doing it. And the office in London is one way of doing it. The more of us that are actually who actually engage at my level and the ministerial level and at chief officer's level in those kind of diplomatic discussions, the more we build a cadre of who one day, it won't be me, I'll be too old by then, but who are able to head up sort of Cayman's international face, if I may call it.
Okay.
You know,
I look forward to one of these days you and I sitting down and debating, and it won't be an adversarial debate, but you will debate the things that we have to look at in terms of going independent, and I will debate on the side of things. Yes, the things that we have to look at, but how it can be simplified, how we would have less to look at. I look forward to that. We're going to arrange that one of these days. Absolutely. We have three callers. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's Johan again. Mr. Premier, I forgot to ask you one question that I think only you can answer. Given your number of years in office and your dealings with multiple governors, the one thing that I always scratch my head on is what exactly is the UK's plan or vision for the Cayman Islands beyond systematically breaking us down and I guess almost accelerating the demise of our financial services industry? Because when you look at all of the other OTCs, we are by and far the jewel, and we are self-sustaining. We don't rely on the UK for anything. Our financial services industry is held to a standard that even the mother country and other G8 countries don't match up to. And it is unclear to me when you look at things like the judgment coming out of the Eurobank trial. You look at the fiasco called Operation Tempura and Operation Kelp.
Caller, you promised to make it short because we still have another string of people waiting, and this is your second call.
Yeah, no, those are the questions, because the Premier, I think, would be able to enlighten us as to where do they expect us to go. Do they expect us to become a sleepy fishing village that is solely relying on the hit and miss of tourism, given what the role that Cayman and the financial services industry plays in the global economy? So if you could help me with that, I would greatly appreciate it, sir.
Thank you very much, caller. We'll have you answer that, Premier, when we take some of the other callers. Next caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning.
Happy you got through. I'm happy you got through. See, we can work things out here,
Mr. Premier, I want to ask a few questions, but I want you to write them down and you can answer. But I want you to answer before you leave the station today. Please, please, please. Okay?
Okay.
Social service, I think in the house last year or so, you always mentioned something about some more money was going to be allocated for the social service people, is going to upgrade on whatever amount they're getting now. If they haven't got it as yet, they plan on getting it. You can answer that question.
Okay. You mean just so I understand the question, you mean the amount of financial assistance, which I think at the moment is about $550 a month. That's what you're speaking about.
Right, and the city was going to increase. They said it was going to be increased, but people are saying it hasn't been increased for them. But you can answer that later. Okay. And I want to get my questions for also for OC. Another thing, the Cayman Compass. I don't know why you gave back all government business to the Compass, knowing the thing that this Mr. Legge is doing to us here in the Cayman Islands. For an example, one of them, the NWDA did doing a survey on people, like they read to like 1,200 people, and the Compass said that 98% of the people was not work ready. But come to find out that the people that went to the NWDA, they went on the job seeing self referral, and NWDA did like 138 people, and only like 11% then was ready for the workforce out of the 138, and in the Compass stated 98% was not work ready.
Mm-hmm.
So
They made it appear as if it was from a larger pool rather than from that smaller pool. Yeah.
Exactly. So from the 1,200, it seemed like 89% is ready for the workforce.
Yep.
You know, so I would like you to look into that, sir. And I think that Compass owed the whole island an apology. And one more thing, I'll let you go. Two more things. Mr. Premier, Mr. Premier, I know that you've headed this island, supposed to be headed this island. Mr. Cocorno is head of the tourism. But I have spoken to him numbers of times on the radio in regards to security at the airport. He said it is here and it's there and whatever. The arrival department outside has no security, no police officers. Mr. O.C. got to give me 1 minute to explain something to this man right now.
Quickly.
On Thursday or Friday, the Air Jamaica was in. Jamaica flight was in. It was this gentleman up there walking up and down with a Henneken bottle drinking beer. Spoke to him in regards to having this, this open beer on the compound. It's not right. Shouldn't be doing it.
Where on the compound?
At the airport, at arrival, outside arrival.
Outside arrivals, okay.
Right, they're walking up and down this beer bottle drinking it. He looked, he was kind of on the high side. So we spoke to him about it. And he crossed us up to the lowest. And he said, if it was a white man walking around with a six-pack, we would not have said anything to him. Which he went racist instantly. But what I'm trying to get across to you, sir, that arrival, I'm sick and tired of talking to Moses about it. You, the head man, outside of the arrival, needs some security. And we need to stop making people go back inside of that terminal looking for luggage. Let them stay outside and let the guys bring the luggage outside to them. Mr. McLaughlin, we are taking this airport too lightly. The thing that's happening all over the world.
Okay, remember you said there were questions, not statements.
But anyhow, we leave it as that. Another thing, all of the schools, all the government schools has like one catering service to all of the government schools. You know, I'm not here to say who should get and who shouldn't get, but we got so many Caymanians here who are great cooks that would love to get into some of these schools to make an honest dollar. I just leave that with you today. I would like to get my answers to my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. We're going to the last caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning. I will say good morning, Mr. Premier.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
I just want to commend you, Mr. Premier.
You didn't get enough of me on Friday or what?
No, Mr. Premier, I want to commend you. I'm calling for two reasons, but the primary reason is to commend you and to let the people, the general public, know how great of a civil society we live in these beloved Cayman Islands. Because on Thursday last week, I had to say I because I was hoping for a larger crowd, but I will march alone any day against any merchant who sells a product like propane marked up at 1,151% above cost. So I marched because also gasoline is selling at 300% above cost. Propane is 289% above cost. And I marched because I was really upset that government has not been doing what I think should be a timely exercise and more effective.
We're going as fast as we can, as we explained to you.
I marched because I would like to see fast action, but the fact is that I stood by the steps of the government building, and I did shout your name and also Mr. Tibbetts' name on actually many occasions. But then on Friday, you actually graciously received us, myself and the committee, and we had a very civil discussion. So I wanted the people of the Cayman Islands to know that we can be proud that in other jurisdictions, some even closer than you think, people like myself would have been in jail on the Thursday evening and not coming to see you on the Friday. So I want the people of the Cayman Islands to know that we live in a very blessed and effective and well-governed society where freedom of speech reigns supreme. That's the primary reason why I called. The secondary reason is, Mr. Premier, I want to appeal to you. Well, secondly, that I want to appeal for you to get involved in at least addressing the propane. Because when a commodity can be bought on the open market for 45 cents a U.S. gallon and sold here for 460 CI to the same U.S. gallon, it is utterly ridiculous and is bordering on usury. if not price gouging, which is illegal, except it's only legal in a case of an emergency. Like an impending hurricane. But I want you to get involved in that. But the secondary reason why I want to call, Mr. Premier, is to encourage you to change the position of the government position about not attending Parliament sometime this week when we're debating the special motions by the opposition regarding to police governance. Mr. Premier, I'm sure you know, or you might not know, but since Friday last week until yesterday, we had 3 serious armed robberies of homes, home invasions with actual guns in play. Something is very wrong with police governance. I'm not saying police has to be at every corner, at every minute of the day, but the people have become sick and tired of the police, and they have lost all trust in the police. When I wrote an article a few weeks ago in my column in one of the papers, I did some research in one of the districts in the middle of Georgetown, and 3 different homes approached me when they realized that, because my voice is kind of loud, so I was telling people that I was there to do some research on the police. 3 different homes, 3 different people came to me from 3 different homes and said that on recent occasions they had called in to make reports to the police. And when the police arrived to those respective places to check out the complaint, for some reason, whether unknowingly or unwittingly or just incompetence, the people who made the report, their identity was revealed.
Yeah, caller, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up real quickly. We're running out of time, and we have one more caller that we're trying to squeeze in.
You gave your hand.
Yeah, but time is time. We just don't have the time. I'm sorry.
I want to have a decent discussion with the Premier because
But we have to be cognizant of the time, please.
Talk nonsense for 3 or 4 times a day. What I'm saying, Mr. Premier, the people have lost trust in the police, and we need to have that discussion. We need to have the government.
George, I'm not at all averse to that. The point I've made over and over again is the House is going to meet 2 weeks from today. This issue is important to everyone, but it is not urgent in the sense that they are making it. I've discussed one of the major issues the government has been battling with over the course of the last month, particularly the last week. We are trying to finish the budget arrangements, but the budget has to come in May, and we simply do not have a week to devote to this week. We are still dealing with major issues arising out of the fallout from the Panama Papers, and I and other critical members of my team cannot have the distraction and disruption created by an opposition called meeting, which is going to wind up 4 or 5 days down there. By the time all 18 members or 17 members it'll be 18 or 19 because the AG and the deputy governor are going to say something to have their say, and everybody has 2 hours that they can talk at length. That's the only point I'm trying to make. We'll deal with this when the House meets 2 weeks from today.
Okay. Thank you very much, caller. We're going to try to squeeze in, one more call? 2 more calls. We're going to ask you to try to be as brief as possible. We realize that you've been waiting, but we're trying to accommodate everyone. We're going to end up going over time, so we want you to just basically cooperate as much as you can with us. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning to you all. First, I must say good job that the Premier has been doing. And just one quick question in regards to everything, right? And it's really, really, really been bothering me. And I would really appreciate if you could just answer, or give us something to hold on to. Don't you think, right, that as the government or as the Premier, don't you think it would have been much, much better if government should go ahead and buy, all of these buildings and build on them or recreate to provide jobs for Caymanians? That is one of the main priority right now that we are trying to defend, right? And don't you think that would be a major input if the government
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question. If government would buy which buildings?
Like take for example the old Ayat that has been sold and rebuild on it, and that would give Caymanians jobs, right? This way you provide places for young Caymanians and Caymanians.
Okay, thank you very much, caller. What she's basically saying is the government providing jobs by buying properties and building, government doing the building and providing the jobs directly.
Well, the approach that my government has taken is that we've sought to encourage private sector investment and development, and it is actually working. The Hyatt site has now been sold, and that's going to be the source of major redevelopment. The thing is that government does not have unlimited funds. In fact, we are
sustainability of that program.
Right, is that we have very limited means to be able to do the major capital projects that the country critically needs, let alone to be able to just do development for the purpose of creating employment. It is much better if we can do things, provide incentives, create an environment that allows the private sector to do that, which in turn will lead not just to the construction jobs, but longer term employment.
Exactly, yeah. One more caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Art Conner, and good morning to our Honorable Premier, Mr. Alden McLaughlin.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, well, when it comes to Commissioner of Police, Mr. Beans, when he first came to the island, there was a commercial on the TV with him speaking. And he was asked a question about people being harassed. And his answer was, some people need to be harassed. I called in and I asked him if harassment is legal or illegal. And he said it was illegal. I then asked him to remove that commercial from the TV immediately, because it was not right for him as the leader of the police department to be encouraging other officers to harass people. And his contract should have never been renewed. And when it comes to the gentleman in England concerning want to take over the territories, I'm not saying to ignore him, but as far as I'm concerned, he's a begrudgeful individual with very low self-esteem. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, caller. One more comment before you take on all of those, Premier. It says the UK is missing or perhaps ignoring the situation. We do not encourage money laundering. The route for the UK to take is to close the loopholes in their own laws to prevent the bypassing of their laws that allow financial centers such as the Cayman Islands to benefit from their own inefficiencies.
There you go.
Yep.
Let me try to, because I know we're already over time. Let me try to.
And plus, you have a press conference.
I have a press conference at 11.
Oh, 11. So we can go until 10:30.
No. I need to meet with my team before we go. The minister is away, so I have to take it.
Sure.
To answer the question about the financial assistance,
yes,
it's still at $550. There was no provision in the current budget for an increase, although the issue was discussed, as she said, during the budget session. And as far as I'm aware, there is no proposal for the number to be increased in the current budget, which has not yet been settled. And security at the airport, I take her point. I'm going to raise it with the Deputy Premier and see where we are. He has, although the airport is run by the Cayman Islands Airports Authority.
And a board,
and a board, he has overall oversight responsibility for it. With respect to the issue about that there are more local people who would like to be and would be able to cater food at the schools, all of the contracts for tendering at all of the government schools go out for public tender, and so it is a competitive bid process, and anyone who believes they are suitable or qualified is able to bid.
But what about those persons who don't have the wherewithal or the abilities to put a proposal together? What would you say to them in terms of find someone who can assist them in putting a proposal together?
Right. And from my experience, the people at the ministry are always very helpful in pointing people the way to be able to do to do these things, because the truth is that you don't need to be a major company to do it, but you have to have the wherewithal to be able to provide significant numbers of meals 5 days a week. Those were the ones from that lady. There was a question from Johan relating to but there were two questions really. One was about or maybe I'm mixing them up. Maybe this was Mr. Ivan, about the governor paying Mr. Baines.
Yes.
I think what's been missed in this discussion is that the Commissioner of Police is a public servant like anybody else, like the cabinet secretary, like the chief officers, like regular police officers. Responsibility for their appointment, their discipline, their termination, negotiations with respect to the salaries and compensation packages they get are not a matter for which the elected government is allowed to get in, let alone make decisions about. Those are matters for the public service. And the governor would not need to seek my approval or that of the cabinet to pay Mr. Baines any more than she would if some police officer, regular police officer, or the deputy governor or a chief officer was leaving the service. Those matters would be dealt with in the usual way by the public service apparatus. Let me not try to say one particular thing. So the governor needs not consult me or let alone ask my permission. Those are decisions entirely for her, because the Commissioner of Police is a civil service appointment. It's not a matter for the elected government or for the Premier, for that matter. The other point that I needed to respond to was the one from Johan. This one was definitely from Johan, about do I know what the UK's agenda is? And I know that there'll be many people who don't agree with me on this, but my experience is that the UK really has no agenda for Cayman or indeed for any of its overseas territories. What the UK is increasingly prepared to do in ways that before it didn't do was to be absolutely pragmatic about decisions it takes, and less maternal, if I may use that. They don't really care too much about where Cayman ends up, I don't believe. What they care most about is the impact on the United Kingdom of decisions that are taken. So
and their image
and their image and their place in Europe in particular, but in the world, more generally. And to the extent that Cayman creates perception, Cayman and the other territories that are in international financial services create perception issues for them, public perception issues, because we know how we are viewed. It is a problem for them. And hence they have been, well, actually until Cameron made that now very famous statement in response to an answer in Parliament a couple of years ago, that it is no longer fair to characterize the overseas territories as tax havens because of these things. That is the first utterance that I recall in all the years I've been around this of any UK minister, let alone the Prime Minister, publicly defending the overseas territories with respect to the business of financial services. So I don't really think that the UK are out to get us or any such thing. It is that they are, as I say, absolutely pragmatic and ruthless about their politics and the perception with respect to them. So we don't need to expect, or we should not expect, the UK to be nice or kind or generous or maternal towards us. we have to fight our corner based on what we've been able to do, on our ability and our reputation. We cannot expect and should not hope for the UK to defend our interests, let alone to promote them.
Mm-hmm. And also, when it comes to, while we know that the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, which consists of career civil servants, that in some instances they basically determine the policy direction that the UK will go, it will depend on the type of government that you have in place, whether or not it's a Conservative or a Labour government, and the leadership as to what position they will take with the overseas territories. I have no doubt that at some point in time you're going to get some UK leader who's going to have the courage to stand up and say we have to do something about the overseas territories when it comes to the right of self-determination and where we go and how do we address the concerns of the United Nations and the Decolonization Committee.
Indeed. The UK has always been, I think, uncomfortable with the prospect that the overseas territories are entitled to the right of self-determination. That has never sat well with them, despite the fact that they acceded to, I forget what the resolution, I think as long ago as 1968, the UN resolution on decolonization.
Yes.
But it's never sat very well with them. And so, I mean, what I and others before me have sought to do certainly over the course of my political career, was to push forward, sometimes inch forward, Cayman's autonomy. I mean, the 2009 Constitution, with such faults and omissions as it has moved forward hugely in that respect. I don't think most people realize that until 2009, when that Constitution came into effect in November, Cabinet, with that grand-sounding term, was still just an advisory body to the governor. The governor actually took all the decisions. I mean, in practice, he or she went along with on most things with what the elected government wanted, but they did have the right to say no. Now, and I mean, one of my first, sort of interactions with Duncan Taylor when I took office was, Governor, you are not operating as though Cabinet is the decision-making body of this country, except with respect to national security and the public service. Now, accept that those are yours, but everything else is ours. Look at the Constitution.
It took some time for him to understand that.
Yeah, I think he understood. He said to me, so you mean I sit in Cabinet and chair it and I'm just the referee? I said, that's a good way to put it, sir. Because under the new Constitution, Cabinet has sole responsibility for the development and implementation of policy. And, for people who are not involved in politics, they might not even consider those things, let alone think about what a critically important and far-reaching change that is to the governance of these islands. And I expect over the course of time that there will be increased tension and there'll be a greater push for even more autonomy. You hear the discussions over national security. I mean, quite frankly, let me be what I'm usually not. Let me be politically incorrect. You know how hard I strive to do things the right way. But let me say that I think that the UK are crazy, really, to insist on having responsibility for national security. It doesn't work. It's never worked well. They would be far further ahead, and Cayman would be far further ahead if this country could hold Alden McLaughlin as Premier or one of my ministers responsible for national security, rather than the governor. This is not the first time that we have gotten into this situation. I mean, we have this country, usually politicians, have hounded 4 commissioners that I'm aware of out of office. I mean, as I said, that makes it harder and harder to get good people to take that post because it is just so political. And elected members, and even somebody like me as Premier, always are faced with the situation where the public is looking to us for to take responsibility and accountability for the management of the police service, when in fact we have no such responsibility. I mean, I went out on a limb. I have gone out on a limb because when I took office, to take responsibility for the police budget, when I say responsibility, in piloting that budget through the LA. But I don't have any other role to play. The National Security Council, which was designed and intended, certainly in my mind, when we were putting it forward, as a body that would take greater responsibility for managing the police service at a policy level, doesn't function that way at all. It never functioned that way under the previous administration. It's not functioned that way under this administration. And so you wind up with responsibility still being entirely that of the governor, and the construct does not work. As Premier of these islands and a representative for 16 years, I've seen enough to tell you it doesn't work. The UK would be well advised to agree to allow somebody, a police authority, or which I pushed during, and we came that close to getting during the constitutional talks, but the now leader of the opposition and Mr. Elio Solomon and others who were there didn't agree, and we were so close to an overall agreement on the Constitution, which had taken the best part of 9 years to do, that in the end the police authority concept, was just left behind. But Cayman would be better off, and the UK would be better off, and the poor governor, whoever he or she is, would be better off if we had a police authority responsible for the police service, and to which the police commissioner was responsible, rather than being line managed by the governor.
As it is now in the Constitution, the governor can, if she wants to, and I guess if she's given permission by by her bosses to do so, assign internal security to a minister. I believe in my reading of the Constitution that any of those subjects that she has, that she can assign to them. Well, but my question is, if she could,
I'll look at that.
Yeah, if she could, would you? And if she offered it to you, would you, as minister, accept the responsibility? Based on what you said, it sounds as if you would, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
It's a poison chalice, but because it is so critical to Cayman, I mean, I certainly would, and I would stand up and take it myself. It is the one issue that no matter where you go, people comment on, and in part it is because we have such a long history of being a safe and secure place. And when, as I remember whether it was Johan or whoever it was that called and said, or George Ebanks, whoever it was, say, there were 3 incidents of armed robbery over the course of the weekend. I mean, those things are chilling. Mm-hmm. Those things are absolutely chilling. So, I mean, to come back to the thing, the discussion about the police service is one in the Legislative Assembly that I welcome. As I say, my great issue with the motion as it's framed is that if the House does resolve that it has no confidence in the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, that is not going to improve the situation we have. In fact, it is going to worsen it very, very swiftly.
Okay. Can I take that as your final comments, or anything else that you want to say? Your press conference, people to listen to that, carried live by Radio Cayman, I believe.
I've talked much more than I usually do. I want to thank you for the opportunity, Radio Cayman, for the opportunity to be here, and the listening public for listening and calling and engaging. And I wish everyone a wonderful day and a great week.
I certainly want to thank you for that, and I also want to thank you for showing that we really need the show to go on from to 10 o'clock instead of 9:30. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing us into your homes, into your places of work, into your vehicles as you traverse the roads of the Cayman Islands. Had a great show this morning with the Premier, quite candid in his responses and everything as well. I want to thank you for all the questions that you posed as well. I want to thank our sponsors. For the record, it was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance Insurance Company Limited. Tomorrow Secured. Call them at 949-9744 or visit them in Alista Towers. And Seaboard Marine with 35 shipping routes, including from Houston, New York, Miami, and Jamaica. Visit seaboardmarine.com for shipping schedules and more. Seaboard Marine, shipping shore to shore. Also, Fidelity Bank. For all your banking and pension needs, call or visit Fidelity branch today. And or most recent sponsor, Cayman Reporter. We want to thank them for coming on board and certainly read all of the interesting articles that are in the Cayman Reporter as well. Support your local newspaper, Cayman Reporter. I want to also remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters keepers. There is always someone out there who is less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then you may want to donate to a worthy charity. We always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want. I encourage you to continue to support and listen to your radio station, Radio Cayman, now 40 years old. Have a great day. Be blessed, and may God continue to bless these 3 Cayman Islands. And remember, follow Radio Cayman, listen to the Premier's news conference at 11 o'clock as well.
Warren Christopher. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record.